Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Johnson County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim July 6th, 2023 to be Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Awareness Day in Johnson County, Iowa, and urge all residents to observe, recognize, and encourage collective action to bring this crisis to an end. Signed this 6th day of July, 2023 in Johnson County, Iowa. Lisa Green Douglas, Chairperson.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Green, seconded by Fixmore Rice. Roll call.
Porter.
Aye.
Fixmore Rice.
Aye.
Green Douglas.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Green.
Aye.
All right, that is approved unanimously. We have with us today Sakawas Nobis. Would you like to step to the mic and say a few words?
I am very appreciative of this gesture. It means a lot because we do have such a small Indigenous community here in Iowa City, but yet this issue has no boundaries, and so, it very well could affect somebody here regardless of whether or not we have a large Indigenous community. Iowa, we like to think that, bad things aren't happening here to Native people, but they happen all the time. For instance, we make up 6.6% of the population or less, I believe, and yet 1.6 something percent of missing people in the state. So there are statistics that prove that we have higher rates of going missing and murder, most likely, from that. I think it was NPR, and I should find the link, that had put a list of the missing Native women in Iowa, and that was so long, like that was a few years ago now, I feel like. So I can't remember the list now, if it was like, if it was 3 women or 6 women, but we still have these women that are missing, and Rita Popke being a very prominent person that the Meskwaki have been searching for a very long time. And then, of course, we don't agree, as Indigenous peoples, we don't really see borders the same way that settler descendants do. So, the border that separates Iowa from Nebraska is, what does that mean, right? It's the Missouri River. And so in Nebraska, that state has a really big issue. It's 7th in the nation for missing and murdered women and girls, and Omaha is 8th in the nation for cities for missing and murdered women and girls. So this is happening like right along our border, which is why we do a lot of work in Sioux City, actually. So I encourage counties like Johnson County and cities to reach out to Sioux City and Woodbury County and make those connections and try to understand what's going on in other parts of the state as well, because we have huge issues in Sioux City. They're not being documented, though, and that's really unfortunate. I'd also encourage this board to try to push for a statewide proclamation. Our Siouxland project director, Tricia Rivers, is working on that right now with J.D. Schulten. But, we hope that more people can come together and support that cause. I find this really interesting, ironic. I don't know if that's the right term, actually. I don't think right. No, I think this is very fitting. This is very typical for what Indigenous people face. That I'm here today, accepting this proclamation on behalf of Indigenous folks in Johnson County. But I almost couldn't make it because of this huge issue we're facing right now in Muscatine, where a white woman on a horse pulled another white woman behind her with a rope while she walked with her hands bound, wearing a Pocahontas costume, Disney Halloween costume. And the optics of that are absolutely appalling, and that is some colonial violence right there. And so, I was, just before I walked in this room, I was on the phone with some PR manager from Muscatine who's trying to figure out a better way forward, right? Well, the better way forward is to not be apologetic to this woman who's trying to claim that she has Indigenous roots. And here's what I'm trying to say, is being apologetic is a huge reason why we haven't moved forward on ending this crisis. Erasing Indigenous people is actually a massive reason, because people think that they can somehow still play Indian and delve into the realm of pretendianism and whitewash our history and tokenize and romanticize us and sexualize us. So we end up with the highest rates of missing people and murdered people in the country, as well as the highest rates in the sex trade. So this is why these are exactly the kinds of things that people need to take seriously and not like sweep under the carpet and discuss. You know, imagine if this was some other situation that wasn't an Indigenous person doing this sort of like white people enacting like other races, right? Doing this, what would the outcome be? There would be a much larger backlash. Because it's still okay in this country to play Indian publicly. It's still okay in this country to have us as mascots. It's still okay to wear red face in this country publicly and in droves, right? In droves, because we see whole stadiums where people do this still. So that's part of the problem, and I'm saying this today because I'm asking if Johnson County will, stand up for us and will say something about, maybe make a statement about what happened in Muscatine. Respond to these things that are happening in our communities. I mean, this is 45 minutes away. It's not like it's, not part of the community here, right? So we need a more hard line approach to these sorts of incidents that happen, these incidents of racism and colonial violence, and it needs to start at the local level, because obviously people at state and federal levels are still really checked out. So thank you so much for listening to me today. Ahai ki tatamahin.
Thank you, Ms. Callis. Board members? Anyone want to say anything?
Thank you. I got something to say. I want to say, I truly thank you for being here. I thank you for standing up for what you feel is right. I thank you for being the advocate for this type of thing, because it happens. And when we're talking about race, I would like in return for this not only to be about Indigenous people, but all people, because just last year we went through the same thing when our community faced the black leaders in this community going through calling us coons and niggas. So I'm going to stand for you. I've always stood for anything that had any negative approach on anybody, but in response, we want to see the same thing. So it should be for all people, Indigenous, whoever. So I respect you and love that you're on TRC, you speak out or whatever, but it has to be reciprocated.
What?
It has to be
Are you?
reciprocated.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying,
How can
if you
saying
want-
that this should be about all people is saying
No,
that
not
this
like
is
that, sweetie.
like
I'm
all
talking
lives
about-
matter.
No, sweetie. When it comes to race, when it comes to being people putting us out there as well.
So we're talking about the missing and murdered Indigenous woman's
No, ma'am.
crisis
No,
right
you're
now.
taking
That's
it
why I'm
another
here
way.
today.
You're taking it another way. I've said what I've said, and I respect you and truly adore your advocacy. But I'm just stating for race. Period.
Can I get the thing? Do I get the proclamation?
Yeah, you.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Okay,
do.
thank you. Could somebody hand that to me?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is very upsetting, and I'm about
I'm
to
sorry.
cry
I didn't mean
because
to upset you.
this
If
is
you
not
get
like
upset,
an all-persons thing right now. This is about like a missing and murdered Indigenous
it
woman's
is.
issue.
It
It's
really
not-
is. And you just asked
So-
us. I'm just saying, you asked us to, we stand with you. We're not. It's not nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing stating that I'm stating is against you. I'm just saying, race. Period. How everybody is treated. How we as Black people are treated in this community as well.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, that's understandable. But right now, we're trying to talk about a specific issue, and we can't just make it, we can't just we have to be specific about what we're talking about.
Right. You're
Yeah,
absolutely true. You're right.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Sakawas. Appreciate your time and awareness.
I think that given what happened today for our proclamations, I really, in this, now I've been here 7 months, 6 days, I've seen people come in for proclamations and leave harmed. And whether it is intentional or not. And it's really, as a person of color, as a queer person, as somebody that is of the marginalized folks, it's hard to ask people to come and do these types of proclamations knowing that they're already, under-resourced or already struggling to come here to make time for us. And while I feel like our hearts are in the right place, I feel like we need some sort of protocols or something so that people don't leave feeling worse than when they came. That is heartbreaking, if I'm being honest. And I would like to see something like that happen, or at least, something of that nature, so that we can stay in our lane, we can acknowledge who is coming before us, and we can uplift those communities. And when we're bringing in people and doing things like, murdered and missing Indigenous people or Native American or, Latinx community, like, it's really heavy. It's really sensitive. And I think we need to have a sensitivity to that that is very intentional, because whether or not, what you intended to say came off, like, it's harmful. That person is harmed and is already, as we know, in a state of harm. And I don't want community members to feel like that coming from the community. I don't want it when they go to pick up their license or their marriage certificates, and I definitely don't want that when they come in front of us. And I really want to see something like that move forward. If it's okay with you, I could work with staff. We can bring something forward, but I can't do this anymore like the way that it is. It's just too painful, whether it's intended or not.
It's up to you. I don't care what you do, because of the simple fact, we as Black people, Black history means something to us as well.
Yeah, and
So calling us coons and niggas and having to deal with that, and you coming forth, I don't feel like I said anything wrong. I just asked for it to be reciprocated the same way you're asking us to please take in that. Do the same for us. I don't feel like I did anything wrong.
I'm saying whether you intended to or not. That's all I'm saying. She walked away harmed. Like,
I apologized before she walked out the door. I tried to tell her.
I know, and
I didn't mean to harm her in
I know you
no
didn't.
kind of fashion whatsoever. But it's not going to stop me from saying whatever protocol you have, my feelings and how I feel about me and this community and how we're treated. I'm the same way, V. I'm in the same boat as her. I'm not here to hurt her in any kind of way.
I know that.
And I didn't intentionally try to.
I know. And so I don't know what triggers people. There's also a level of, like, trauma. We're all walking around with our trauma.
Yeah,
and
yes, we
so
are.
I can't speak for that, but if we could at least minimize it, right? Like, at least have some protocols, or quite frankly, just not do them. I truly feel that. Like, if we want to just, like, have proclamation for 4th of July or whatever, it's sad to me, because I want to recognize our community members. I want to uplift their communities. I mean, as, trans person, like, Transgender Visibility Day, amazing. Like, it brings me to tears. It's so moving. And I get nervous. Like, what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to put that out there, because it just happened today, and I don't mean to single you out. It's not you. This has happened before. I've had to apologize coming out of this meeting to people that have come before us for proclamations. I've had to call them and say, I'm really sorry what happened. And I should not have to do that. None of us should.